trying to figure out what the heck happened here. Gonna dive into your fan questions. Gonna let your fan questions kind of drive the show like before. Thank goodness Penn State's going to a bye. Make sure that you have liked the video if you're watching live on YouTube and you're subscribed, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on a different podcast platform. And we'll get into the show. Thank you all for being here. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, not quite yet, but always, Shawn Kane. Shawn, no, you have some technical difficulties. Hopefully we'll be able to get you on the show in a second. But we did want to start the show. Man, just what a crazy day on Saturday. I see Stephen Keel, and I'm assuming this is the case for a lot of you folks watching on YouTube Live, are going to have some questions and some fiery ones at that, because it was not all sunshines, rainbows, and lollipops for the Penn State Nittany Lions on Saturday. Stephen Keel says, I don't want to hear a Tom Allen defense scheme. I call BS. Penn State got overwhelming talent advantage. It was that defense that came out flat and got hit in the mouth and then finally woke up. Stephen, I think you have a decent point there. Tim Ray says there's obviously second half adjustments or untwinking that occurred. It's one of the two. Well, we're going to get into it. We're going to save the film room for Thursday's show. But we're definitely going to talk about some of the X's and O's today, because it was just a problem on Saturday. And I don't know if it's as much of a just, forget about it kind of thing. We talked about this on Thursday. These games in September often give us some red flags that we need to pay attention to for the rest of the season. And right on cue, I think there's another perfect example of that this past Saturday. There were glaring issues on this defense on Saturday that I don't think are all going to go away, and that you can't just wipe the chalkboard clean with an eraser and say it's going to be fine. There's some problems here, and I'm not exactly sure that they're just going to be easily fixed. Matty Ice on YouTube. Does Penn State have to have three 1,000-yard wide receivers until some people are happy? Matty Ice, I saw you were on X today fighting the good fight. I saw that you're battling with some folks on there. A lot of our fan questions on today's show are about the wide receiver room, which is no surprise to anybody. No surprise to anybody at all. Here, well, listening on podcasts, I was just taking a nice sip of a cold, refreshing beer. Lambda, how big of a deal is the lack of pass rush? We got a fan question on that as well. So we're gonna hop into that in a second. Before we start, again, I'm gonna try to get Shawn a couple more minutes here. Before we start, I just wanted to tell you guys my story, what happened to me on Saturday. I'm officially, if James Franklin was talking about my injury to the press, he would definitely say I have some bumps and bruises. I was able to get out into the tailgating lots on Saturday, playing some beer ball, which if you've never played beer ball before, it's the game where you and your teammate are on one side of the table, the opposing team's on the other side of the table. Everybody has a beer unopened, and you have to throw the ping pong ball to hit the beer can. And if you successfully hit one of their beer cans, your teammate drinks, and whatever side can finish both of their beers first wins. And early on Saturday, when the rain came in, which, by the way, that did not really end up affecting the game at all, which is great, because early on we thought it was going to be a problem. Early on, the grass was very wet, and I went down, took an injury to my right knee. Still struggling to bend it quite a bit. Definitely a bumps and bruise. So we're gonna hopefully get back right there. But it's bye week came at a great time, even for me. Bye week came at a great time. I had one person say this is a good sign that you're getting old when you get hurt playing drinking games. I think that's probably a fair assumption. So anyway, bumps and bruises for Corey. And maybe some bumps and bruises for Shawn's laptop as well, because I think that's the issue right now. Tim Ray, come in with one more question before we get started. Can we give credit to Connor Bazelak? I mean, he played the game of or half of his life in the first half. He was on point, got rid of the ball quickly, and was on the money. Credit is due. Absolutely. I think that's maybe the best place to start with all of this is you are right. Bowling Green absolutely deserves credit. Oh, do we have Shawn? Do we have a Shawn in here? Looks like we do. Hold on a second, Shawn. By the way, Shawn, we are live.
Oh, great.
And we're up and running. So Shawn has made it. Shawn, how are you doing?
Good. I'm happy I didn't come in here like full Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, if you were like naked or something, we would have had an issue. But
yeah, I know, right?
No, we are live. We've already got a host of questions. A lot of people on the live chat throwing in some questions. Where I was starting with this, Shawn, you missed my bumps and bruises, by the way. I let people know about my knee injury while we were waiting. But where I was getting at, though, where I was starting the show was giving credit to Bowling Green where credit is due. I mean, they absolutely did play a very good first half of football. Mind you, without their starting running back, Terrion Stewart. I mean, this team was supposed to be run heavy. They come out, they throw the ball all over the place. Connor Bazelak, I think, was like 13 to 15 for a second there with like $167 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he started off red hot. Absolutely deserves credit for that. Offensive coordinator, I thought they did a great job of kind of doing what Michigan likes to do against Penn State, where they spread you out everywhere and then they try to run underneath you and get the quick passing game going. It was exactly what Michigan likes to do against Penn State. So great game plan, great execution. And really, if I'm going to be honest, the only knock I have on Bowling Green is that I think they were a little bit conservative. I think they had a chance to blow this wide open in the first half before Penn State was able to go into the locker room, lick their wounds, and readjust. They had 2 fourth down opportunities where I think they should have went for it. They could have potentially made this game 31, 34 to 24 at the half, and or 24-20 at the half instead of let me say that part again. They could have had it 34-20 or 27-20. So 2 opportunities. The one where they decided to elect to kick the field goal on the 4th and 1. They could have easily got a yard against that defense at that point in the game. And then there was a later on example around midfield where they elected to just decide to punt, where they would have went for it there. They would have had no problem getting it. So a couple, or sorry, they did go for it, but Abdul Carter broke it up. Just maybe blocking Abdul Carter would probably be a good idea on a 4th and 1. But some really good opportunities for Bowling Green to even have a large lead at the half. So absolutely, they deserve credit where credit's due. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, now that I've said, okay, Bowling Green did a good job, whatever. Come on, people. It's Bowling Green. I don't care what James Franklin had to say about, they were going to be a good test and they could upset some people later on. I know Connor Bazelak's a 6-year guy, has a lot of experience, technically had some really good talent when he first came out of high school. Penn State did not play well. And Kobe King mentioned that it was he noticed that the energy wasn't exactly there. But it wasn't just an energy thing, Shawn. It was an alignment issue. It was a gap discipline thing. It was miscommunication on defense. It was a lot poor tackling. There was more than just one thing here of coming out flat. It wasn't just whatever. We're playing against a bad opponent. We're gonna let them hang around. No, they X and O's beat Penn State for the first half of this game, and it wasn't really that close. And I think as we kind of get into it, Shawn, we're going to uncover some potential red flags that Penn State's going to have to pay attention to for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. A common thing that I was getting as I was doing the live tweeting of the game was, well, give them credit, and sure, I mean they could play. I think they're better than I thought they were. I'll give them that. Stewart was really the only guy I was really worried about on their offense, but Basilak, I mean, he was dealing the first half. He had almost 200 yards of passing um, after the first half. So not a slouch. And I didn't, I underestimated him, and hey, maybe Penn State did too. They got praise all week. There were some people that were thinking that the defense may be better than last year's defense. I was not there, but it was a discussion, and that's why you can't overreact to week one because it's only one chapter in a 12 to 15 or 16 game book. So you can't overreact to the first one. And I think Bowling Green showed that, yeah, how to attack this Penn State defense. I noticed early in the game, first drive of the game, they went deep a few times. Cam Miller got beat up on a little bit, but then they kept going over the middle. Like Cory said, spreading us out, going underneath. Then they would do it again. And then we were just playing so far off the ball, giving them such big cushions. It was kind of like I texted you guys this yesterday. It's kind of like watching a bad Brent Pry game. And there were a few of those. The Minnesota game in 2019 comes to mind where we would play way off for no reason. And they would just go underneath, 7 yards here, 8 yards there. Then they would run the ball, pick up some more on the ground, like you said, kind of like how Michigan likes to do. So, yeah, I mean, definitely concerns. And one of the things that I said going into this season that will define the season is how much of a step back will the defense take and how much of a step forward will the offense take. I think it's fair to say the offense is going to take a step forward. We'll see how significant. And it looks like it's going to be fair to say the defense is going to take a step back. But again, still yet to see how significant that step back will be.
Before I go completely negative on this whole episode, I will give credit to Tyler Elsdon from a linebacker perspective. Tony Rojas got banged up and didn't play as much there for a little bit. He came back in for the interception, thankfully. But as far as like probably the best game of his career, I think Tyler Elsdon probably played it on Saturday, which was, I mean, a kind of an important game for him to have a good day, given the fact that the Penn State linebackers did not have a very good day. The back seven in general just had an awful day. You mentioned a lot of stuff underneath being open. Some of that was due to like some conservative lining up, but a lot of it too was bunch wide receiver sets that Penn State was trying to play man coverage with and just not communicating on switches or not switching, and then having somebody who's nowhere near that player having to come all the way up and cover them on a quick slant, like simple things like that. Bowling Green did a great job with the play action game and the RPO game to throw those underneath slants and move the linebackers. But I think a lot of that goes to, and I think Devon J. Thomas mentioned this after the game. A lot of guys were, a little bit trying to just do their own thing, maybe in Beaver Stadium, trying to get their splash plays instead of just playing within the system. Whatever the case was, people were out of position all day long, especially in that first half. And they're lucky that they weren't down by more, to be honest with you. So want to talk about some specifics here that really kind of upset me. I'm going to have the film room for the the Wednesday show. Still confused on that. We did it one time and now I'm all messed up. For the Wednesday show, Cam Miller had a bad day. I just Just gonna be honest with you. Cam Miller had a bad day. The one where he was even in phase and then still got mossed, he still released the receiver to the wrong side. It was cover one. He let him release outside. And then he didn't make a play on the ball, didn't turn around. Got beat on the defensive pass interference. Just not a great day for Cam Miller. In general, the communication really was not great. But Shawn, one of the first red flags that I want to bring up, that I think is a huge concern for Penn State, is they clearly have what I think at this point is 2.5 really good safeties. And after those 2.5 guys, I'm nervous about everything else. The depth, and you could even kind of, to a certain degree, you can probably wrap the linebackers into this as well. The safety / linebacker depth is terrifying right now because you have Kevin Winston Jr., you have Jalen Reed, you'll have Zakee Wheatley, who I still think is trying to put it all together. And I know he had the interception, but struggled at times on Saturday. And then linebackers, you have Tony Rojas and Kobe King. They asked Dom DeLuca to do a lot of things that he wasn't probably comfortable doing or used to do. Tyler Elson had to play a lot. They don't have a lot of depth even after those two guys. So a huge concern in my book is we hear a lot of times from Penn State and James Franklin specifically how this is the deepest team they've ever had. Well, this is not the deepest team they've ever had on the defensive side of things. They're just not as deep as they have been in the past. And it is a massive concern for me as we head into the Big Ten schedule in a couple of weeks that they don't have enough depth on that side, especially in the back seven, to make it throughout a whole Big Ten season.
Yeah, those are two things that, I had mentioned in the summer, especially after King Mack had departed. Safety, yeah, you feel really good about those first two guys, and sure, Zakee Wheatley will show you good things from time to time, but the biggest thing in his career, and I think Saturday really kind of showed what his career has been. He'll make a play like he did late, and it was a big play for us, but he had a lot of rough moments too on Saturday. So consistency has always been the thing with him. KJ Winston got hurt sometime in the second quarter. I can't really tell where he got hurt.
I'm wondering if he was banged up beforehand.
Yeah, because he really didn't play well in the first quarter and a half that he was in. It was very uncharacteristic. Jalen Reed, after KJ Winston went out, he really wasn't playing the Lion as much. Zion Tracy actually got in quite a bit at that Lion spot. Corey's grimacing a little bit, and I think it's because there were some rough moments there for him. But yeah, I mean, after that, Dakari Nelson's a linebacker now. And then, yeah, you talk about linebacker depth. And Abdul Carter ended up playing some linebacker late in the game. He ended up moving back to edge. I think depending on how comfortable they're going to be with Dom DeLuca, you might see him more at linebacker, especially if we have to play a lot of 4-3. A game like Illinois kind of makes me think could be a heavy Abdul Carter at linebacker game. And I think that's something we're gonna have to strap up for, because depth is definitely a red flag, especially at some positions. And I kind of understand where Franklin's saying, where we have depth at a lot of places, because there are places that we do have a lot of depth at. But on defense, not especially. And I know they're very, very high on Cam Miller. I just have to see it in a game. I'm just not seeing it. And a point that Cory makes a lot, and it's true, he is in position quite a bit. I think of that Peach Bowl, even against really, really good receivers, he was in position, but he just doesn't make plays on the ball. And at some point, you got to be able to put it together. This is his third year here, and they're really, really counting on him. And, USC looms in just a month, and we better get it going. Also, though, I will chew on this, though. It is the second game in the new system. It is the second game without Manny Diaz. and his system there, not counting the bowl game. So maybe they're still getting used to Tom Allen. And I know there are guys on this defense, and we're going to talk about the pass rush. And the pass rush is one thing that I think will come and will help the secondary. I'll tell you why when we get to it. But Tom Allen is still really getting everything together. We thought he was farther along after the West Virginia game, but that could just be a product of Garrett Green just not being a very good passer. Plus, we had 8 months to prepare for it.
Well, not just that, but also West Virginia did drop a couple passes over the middle of the field. Some were broken up physically. Some were just dropped. And I'm just wondering if they caught a couple of those to move the chains, how much different would have that game really been than the game we just saw against Bowling Green? So I think, I'm not trying to say it would have been similar, but West Virginia squandered a lot of opportunities, either bad throws or bad catches or not holding on to the football when Penn State did make a good play to jar the ball loose. But they had chances to move the sticks, and they weren't able to. So Matty Ice mentions here about Dom DeLuca playing the second half. Yeah, there was moments where Dom DeLuca was out there with Tyler Elsdon. They were the two linebackers. It's very evidently clear now, Shawn. Penn State has got to try to stay out of 4-3 as much as they can. They just have to. They don't have the depth to play three linebackers the entire game.
Yeah, not really. I think that's part of why we brought Tom Allen in, right? Because his scheme was going to fit what Penn State has. And I mean, I keep talking about King Mack leaving being a big deal, and it is for a situation like Saturday, because you have KJ Winston go out of the game, and then we're scrambling a little bit. Now, I will say, second half, they did play very, very well on defense, and they got a lot cleaned up. I think a lot of it had to do, too, with being able to stop the run, which we weren't able to do in the first half for whatever reason. The defensive line just played very poorly, on top of what we saw in the back seven. So I think it kind of started there, but I think that is something that was encouraging.
Yeah, part of me is like, I think they did calm down and they got back to their gap assignments and they stopped trying to play hero ball to a certain degree. So I think you're right there. But I'm also wondering, Shawn, how much was it like just Bowling Green didn't have the depth, right? Where like,
Sure.
Okay, you were able to, when you were fresh, make some plays, but that offensive line got tired a little bit too. Connor, like, so some people on YouTube already made the point, like Connor Bazelak had probably the half of his life. He probably wasn't going to consistently be able to do that for two halves, but how much did that play into it? But you're right. They did calm down. They did play better. Tim Ray on YouTube says it best, probably 30 plays, 89 yards in the second half. So they did slow things down. But to what Corey Geiger got to the other day, you wanted to see Penn State come out and kick some ass. And I guess, honestly, they offensively, Corey Geiger probably would have been happy with what they did as far as coming out and kicking ass. But nobody expected the defense to kind of put up that poor of a performance, especially for the home opener.
Shawn, another slow start.
Right. Do you want to just get into some fan questions? Because I think that's going to, again, lead the conversation pretty well.
Let's do it. I know we got some takes out there.
We do. Matty Ice says A.J. Harris needs to follow Zachary Franklin from Illinois, wide receiver. He's the only corner I feel good about. Illinois, which a lot of people did not take Illinois to win, by the way, in the pick'em. Illinois beats number 19 Kansas. Little upset there. So Illinois, they play nobody good this week.
Yeah, they're probably gonna be ranked by the time we play them.
I don't know if they have a bye before we play them. I'm assuming do they have a bye right before they play us? What if they do?
Let me check. I will check that. Yeah, but they're probably, as long as they don't slip up here the next.
No bye.
Yeah, they play Central Michigan, and then they play. They got a tough one at Nebraska.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, no bye, and they have Nebraska as well.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch for them.
Let's get into some of these questions here. We're talking about it already, so why don't we start with this? So this first question here is from Jay Jigglestein. Appreciate the name, Jay. Shawn, if you could tilt your camera down just a smidgen for me when you have a second, or sit up just a little bit more. Perfect. His question: what was the biggest difference between the first and second half on defense? Jay's biggest concern is offense on third down. And despite Drew's improvement, the offense still looks sloppy when it matters. All right. Well, I'll get to the second part first. We kind of hit on the first part a bit already. I think they came back out and were able to make adjustments. They were more gap sound in the second half. They communicated better in the secondary in the second half. They got a little bit more pressure on Connor Bazelak in the second half. And they were able to win first down more often in the second half, which led to longer second and tens, longer third down situations. I don't know what the number was, but I think the average in that first half had to be like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Like they had very easy third down situations. That wasn't as easy for them in the second half. So those are the biggest differences. But most importantly, I think Penn State did have the depth in relation to Bowling Green to start leaning on that a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, they won at the point of attack more, because as bad as the secondary played, I mean, like I said earlier, the front four really didn't play well, and that's pretty inexcusable because I know all these guys could play. I know all these defensive tackles have played football here a long, long time. The edge guys have played football here a long, long time. So it's not like we're putting a bunch of new guys in, like we are somewhat in the secondary, not the safeties, but the corners, and linebackers playing bigger roles than they're used to. So you don't want to ever really see that from them. But to me, that's where the biggest adjustment was made, forcing Bazelak off his timing a little bit. And just getting in his face. Now Bazelak was able, like he was getting that ball out quick, really the whole game. That's part of the reason we didn't have any sacks, because I do think in the second half, if he held on to the ball like a half second longer, we probably had to pick up a few sacks, because he was running for his life most of that half. And then yeah, I mean your concern is a valid one, on third down. Um, because as good as much as the offense I think has improved, they're still not as efficient as we would like to be on third down. And I do think it will become. I think the offense will get prettier looking, as time goes on. Sloppiness is part of really.
Uh-oh. We lose Shawn? May have lost Shawn here. As Shawn tries to reconnect, I want to add to his point that he made that I think will make you feel better if I can find it here. I think this is going to make you guys feel a little bit better, as far as that concern, specifically on third down, because yeah, I think it was Daniel Gallen had a really good point. Yeah. Oh, it's from Mark Brennan. So let me make this point real quick here as we try to get Shawn back. Penn State was only 2 for 9 on third down conversions. However, their average yards gained on third down was 8.6. That's deceiving. Because lost him there. That is deceiving because one possession in the second quarter, Penn State ran 9 first down plays for 148 yards. So they were moving the football without ever having to get the third down. 16.4 yards per play during those 9 first down plays. On the game, Penn State averaged 10.4 yards on 30 first down plays. 10.4 yards on first down on 30 plays. which basically means 1st and 10, you're picking up the first down on average. Penn State had 313 yards on first down in the game, 125 yards on all the other downs. So clearly, Penn State was doing such a great job on 1st and 10 that they weren't even getting to very many third down situations. Now, yes, do they need to do better on third downs? Yes. But when you're averaging 10.4 yards per clip on first down, I'm willing to calm down a little bit on that rhetoric. So I wanted to share that number. That's from Mark Brennan over at 24/7 Sports. Thought that was great statistics there. All right. Hopefully we get Shawn back. Tim Ray, you absolutely can be Homer here and say we had just a bad half. I totally think that's fine. I'm going to be a little bit more critical on them, but I think that's totally fine. And you're right. They deserve some credit for being so good on offense as well. Absolutely. Just make sure Shawn's okay. And then we're going to jump over to this next question here. I don't know if we're ready to start talking about offense yet. Let's stick on defense. Okay. Hopefully we get Shawn back here in a second. Shawn's going to restart his computer. I'm going to answer this fan question for him. This is from Jason on X. Do you see Abdul Carter going back and playing more linebacker and less on the edge? His concern was not too concerned, maybe just getting the ball thrown to Evans, Fleming, and Clifford more. Fair enough. We'll talk about those guys in a second for sure. Okay. Do you see Carter going back and playing more linebacker and less on the edge? Well, I do have to say something that Shawn just mentioned. The fact that they put him back there later in the game, at least for a little bit, makes me wonder, like, are they willing to do that when the going gets tough? So I am curious about that. Here's my belief. Penn State has 2 sacks on the season, both in the West Virginia game. Neither by Abdul Carter. Now, Abdul Carter has made some impactful moments. He had that huge pass deflection on the 4th and 1 last week. But is he truly being the game wrecker we are hoping he would be, say, like the Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys? I haven't seen that yet. And if he's not going to be able to do that for you at the defensive end spot, we know he's a pretty good linebacker, relatively, and a great pass rusher from the linebacker position. And we know we have good depth at the defensive end spots. So what I'm suggesting here is, if he's not making a NFL first round difference as a defensive end, move him back to linebacker where depth is a concern and let him play linebacker. Because we know he can do it. He still can rush the passer from the linebacker spot, which is where he's been the most effective so far in his career. It gives you that extra depth. And we know that the defensive end spot already has a lot of depth to begin with. Now, I'm not ready to pull the plug just yet on that. I think you got a great opportunity against Kent State. I think you could probably have a good opportunity even against Illinois. So I say you try to give him as many opportunities as you can, but know that if we don't seem to start seeing production, we are going to have to consider moving Abdul Carter back to linebacker if the production's not there, because we simply don't have the depth at the linebacker spot for Abdul Carter to not be an absolute gain wrecker at the defensive end position. Shawn, what are your thoughts on moving Abdul Carter back to linebacker and less on the edge?
Well, I think it may be something that we have to do out of necessity. I'm sure Cory covered that a little bit, but look at the depth situation. Like, Cory, would you be comfortable with the Mean Vanover starting for Penn State?
Yes,
I would be too. I mean, would you be more comfortable than him starting or Dom DeLuca?
Oh, wait, I mean Vanover of Dom DeLuca easily. I know they're not the same positions, but yes.
Yes.
Amin Vanover is fantastic. When they try to pull a guard or a tackle against Amin Vanover, he actually crashes into that guy. Basically blows up that play. There's a good example of it actually from this past week. Abdul Carter tends to kind of go around him and it kind of opens the lane. You want some guy like Chop Robinson is great at, like where you actually hit that offensive lineman and kind of put him back in the lap of the offense or of the running back. Amin Vanover does it very well. Abdul Carter kind of goes water on rocks and tries to go around. So anyway, I'd be very comfortable with Amin Vanover in that position.
Yeah, like even if the linebackers were awesome, Abdul Carter still looks like a guy still learning how to play edge because he's a guy still learning how to play edge. As talented as he is, and you still see that talent from time to time because he's still disruptive. But he still looks like a work in progress at this point. And like I said, that's even if everything was peachy keen with the linebackers. And it's not that I think like the first guys are bad players or anything. They're not. And I know I've been tad hard into Luka this episode. He's a good player. But it's a question of who would you rather on the field?
Go buy a sauce.
And buy a sauce, of course. A problem you may run into is Rojas and Carter both play the same position. Well, Carter used to play that position. So how do you fit them in? I mean, with the 4-2-5, you could absolutely do it, but do you put them both on the same? Do you put them both on the field at the same time? Then what happens with Cope King? So there's some things like that they're going to have to iron out. Could somebody there play the Lion? I think Rojas. I want a little side note. Rojas looks really, really good at pass coverage. Like really, really good. Navarro Bowman is my standard for how good a linebacker should be in pass coverage. I have never seen a linebacker better at Penn State than him at that. He's impressive. Like he fits in there really, really nicely. So just an idea if you want to get them both on the field at the same time.
Rojas's interception. At first, I thought, they threw it right to him. He made a great play on that ball.
Yeah.
That was not just an easy interception. So, feeling really good there. Tim Ray says, one play I saw Abdul Carter got blown up on the edge. The technique is concerning. And you can't just rely on speed and athleticism.
Yeah.
Rich Shell says, listening to you guys now, Dom DeLuca misses way too many tackles. And that's actually Rich coming off of X. I think that might be the first comment we've got via X since we started doing this live on X, which we hadn't done for very long. So thanks, Rich. And agree. I think Dom struggled a little bit in this game. And part of the reason Dom struggled is they're asking him to play out in space a lot more than he's used to. He's not, when you go to a twin set of some kind, and you're asking your outside linebacker to split the difference between the slot wide receiver and the offensive tackle or the tight end. That's not where Dom wants to play. Dom doesn't want to be in that much space. He bit hard on play action. There's throwing lanes behind him. Just wasn't a great day for Dom DeLuca in general.
Yep.
Let's go to this question. Then we're gonna go down. We have like 4 questions on the wide receiver. So we're going to finish this question, and then we'll go to that one. So this one is from Devin. Devin says, not always, but too often when I watch Penn State, I see a team that looks lost or sluggish in the first quarter and needs halftime adjustments to get things fixed. Why has this been a constant issue under James Franklin? Why can't Penn State click in all areas from the jump? I mean, I think this is a reasonable question for sure.
Yeah.
I think the easiest answer to that, Shawn, is it's not easy.
You know what JFK said? We do these things not because they're easy, but because they are hard.
That's right.
Yeah. And I agree with you. But you gotta be able to put a complete game together. You can get away with it with Bowling Green, but you got to be able to do it. When you go out to USC in a few weeks, if your defense looks discombobulated, we're going to give up 50. Like, that's just going to be what happens. And I think they know that. But, yeah, you got to come out guns a-blazing. I mean, I like the way that the offense came out. But the defense, you can't be looking lost out there. But yeah, it's a real concern. I mean, you even think back years back to James Franklin had a bit of a soundbite at Iowa in 2017. We're second half team. I remember that was all over Twitter there for a little while back then. But that's kind of been the story of his career, especially the past year or so. Like, this is what it feels like 13 or 14 straight games where we come out really, really slow on one side of the ball or the other, or both. And you just can't have that. So if I knew the answer to why it happens, I would tell James Franklin to stop doing that.
I think a lot of it is he does not like to make huge adjustments until halftime.
Yeah, I think he likes to feel things. I think Corey Geiger made that point.
Yeah, but to a certain degree, I'm okay with that, right? Because like it is to a certain degree a boxing match typically in the first quarter. I don't have an issue with that to a certain extent. I don't think that's what happened at all on Saturday.
No.
I think this was more of the defense came out flat. They were trying to play a little bit of hero ball, weren't following their assignments, and they got beat. Devin, how about I make an agreement with you or some sort of proposal here? Penn State can't put together a full game against Kent State. We can have another conversation. Because I see what you're saying, but I'm not gonna pull a red flag on this one quite yet. Plenty of other red flags in this game. This one I'm not as concerned about because I don't think it necessarily fits in that category because the defense didn't start fast for other reasons, and the offense actually did start fast. But if they can't put a complete game together against Kent State, who just lost to St. Francis, like the St. Francis in Pennsylvania, St. Francis, then there's bigger problems here. So I'm not going to say you're wrong, but let's just come back and see what happens in 2 weeks against Kent State off of a bye, which historically Penn State has been slow off of a bye as well. So an opportunity to maybe calm down people on two different notes there. Rich says, any news on Winston? Need him for sure. I haven't heard anything. I'm sure somebody will ask at some point in the next week. But yeah, we'll see. I see Tim Ray has gone to the offense on YouTube. Let's go over to the offense as well. Shawn, I'm going to start off with this question because then after this, it's going to get very, very, very wide receiver centric here. This question's from Matt. His concern is the lack of pass rush. We might talk about that a little bit more after these fan questions. But his question, is there enough balls to go around in this offense, given the few wide receiver targets today? Yeah, so I guess I'll just, before I turn it over to you, Shawn, I'll just mention that Penn State against Bowling Green had a whopping 1, 2, 3 receptions to a wide receiver. Now, they only completed 13 passes, 8 of which went to Tyler Warren. I believe he was targeted 8 times and he had 8 catches. They targeted Trey Wallace 3 times, one of which was a little bit underthrown on the deep pass. And they also targeted Omari Evans another time, but the offensive pass interference took that away from his potential second touchdown. They also threw the ball to Khalil Dinkins once, which is nice to see him back. And then Nick Singleton obviously caught the nice touchdown. And we just lost Shawn again. Shawn is having a tough day today. For those that are on podcasts, we just have not been able to keep Shawn in here today. I'm not sure why. But that to me is understandable. Look, should they have thrown the ball more? Maybe. Should they have just completed some more passes? Maybe. But remember, Tyler Warren just set a school record for tight end receiving yards. And they clearly trust Ty Warren more than wide receiver number 2. A lot of people think he is basically their wide receiver number 1. And maybe contrary to what he was early in his career, where he was more of a dink and dunk kind of guy, he is now turned into an explosive weapon. I don't know how many of his catches, but most of his catches went for more than 10 yards, a lot of which happened yards after catch. So Ty Warren is doing some great things in the passing game. And I think a lot of the times people are like disqualifying it because it's not a wide receiver. What I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you're getting the passing yards, if you're converting, if you're scoring and moving the chains, etc. And that's what they're doing with Ty Warren. So at some point, Penn State fans are going to have to accept they have Ty Warren, they have Trey Wallace. Hopefully they can continue to incorporate Amari Evans, and then the rest is most likely going to be very sparse. I think, and I said this before the game on Saturday, I think the game, there is going to be a game at some point where Julian Fleming is a part of it and does make a difference. But I don't think you're going to expect that every week. What you are going to get is Ty Warren and maybe somebody else and the running backs. That is going to be Penn State's offense, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys were okay with that before the season started. Because if you get 100 yards out of Nick Singleton, and you get 100 yards out of Katron Allen, and you get 150 yards out of Ty Warren, that's pretty good. Now, I'm not going to say that's enough to beat whoever, but that's what you're going to see 90% of the time out of this Penn State offense.
Yeah, what's the question? I had to switch to my cell phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Okay.
Just talking about, are there enough balls to go around?
Yeah. Tyler Warren, I predicted at the beginning of the year that Tyler Warren would lead the team in receiving. I kind of feel pretty good about that pick after the game. But yeah, I mean, it did surprise me that Harrison Wallace did not have a catch. But yeah, I mean, I think there'll be enough. I do think this is going to be a run-heavy team, so you're going to have weeks like we already have where some of the guys don't really get heavily involved with catching the football. So that's just going to be something that I think they're going to have to deal with from week to week.
Yeah. Sorry, I was cleaning up your camera there, making it fit a little bit better here.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what's up with my laptop.
I know we're gonna have to get management involved to get you a new laptop, I think. All right, let's
get the PS4s.
Let's stick on this conversation. Yeah, the PS4s don't seem to be happening. Let's go through these wide receivers. Let's start with this one. This question here from Dorito Bandit. Amari Evans has shown flashes of brilliance. Do you think he can become a reliable number 2 by the end of the season? Dorito's biggest concern is how flat they were in the first half. Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit already in the show. This has to be a fluke because flat start will kill you against good teams. Absolutely. Shawn, I think it's already evidently clear. But Amari Evans is your number 2 at this point. Whether or not he shows up and gives you 70 yards every game, I'm not sure, which he probably would have had if he didn't have the offensive pass interference. But I'm feeling pretty good given the fact that they're giving him approximately 3 to 5 targets a game. I think, and he'd have that one drop as well, which would have helped his yardages in addition to the offensive pass interference plays. So he had a couple more opportunities to make plays that he wasn't able to, but it seems like they're committed to at least giving Amari Evans 5 opportunities a game.
Yeah, I think he's your quintessential deep threat, right? And yeah, if he plays like he's played the past 2 games, then yeah, I'm fine with him being the number 2 option. He's got to stop pushing off. That would be helpful because he should have had 2 touchdowns because he did not need to push off on that the touchdown that got called back. I don't know why he did that, because it was a perfect ball. He beat the guy. He didn't like kill him. He might have got hit as he caught the ball, but there's no reason at all to push off like he did. So that was just a bit frustrating, but that's something you can clean up. But yeah, I feel really good about what I've seen from Omari Evans so far. I think he's gonna, um, he's gonna be that guy to take the top off the defense, and that's gonna be something that defenses are gonna have to worry about, that they just haven't had to worry about. Certainly last season, you could even argue a little bit in 2022, where we didn't have in my opinion, a true deep threat. We had guys that could do it, but not somebody who could do it reliably, like I think Omari Evans could. We just didn't have anybody with that speed.
Yeah, and I think he's learning to run routes better too, and that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, move the chains too.
So yeah, I think again he's one of those guys too where you can get him in space, he might go the distance. Which they really haven't had for quite some time. And so I think Omari Evans could be, you know what he reminds me of to a certain degree, and he's not probably as fast, but he's on that kind of spectrum. Is the former Ohio State receiver who went to Alabama, who's now with the Detroit Lions. The speedster. You're muted, by the way. Jameson Williams, thank you. That's kind of like that mold that I'm thinking. Like, is he going to catch everything? Maybe, maybe not. But if he catches it, he's gone. And I think Omari Evans can be that kind of guy.
I'm curious to see too, because like maybe give him some jet sweeps. Call John Donovan back.
Little Brandon Polk action.
Little Brandon Polk that we ran 5 times a quarter back then in 2015. But yeah, I would like to see him with the ball in his hands, as often, probably more often, because he, from a pure speed perspective, you're probably your fastest guy on offense. So, and I know Nick is, when Nick hits the Jets, he's probably just as fast, if not faster. But, just that quickness that he has, I would like to see him maybe on a jet sweep or two. I have a feeling Andy Kotelnicki has a plan for that. So,
a little read option with Nick Singleton and Omari Evans.
Yes, he was a high school quarterback. Real ones remember.
Good ones to remember. Tim Ray says that was such a big drop. Yeah, it was. All right, so we talked about Omari Evans. Let's go to, and I have a feeling, Shawn, that this might be a recurring theme question week in and week out. We've hit it now 2 for 2. The question is from Alex: what has Julian Fleming done wrong?
Nothing. He's playing kind of a little bit like we thought. I thought maybe he'd have more than one catch by now, but he's blocking. He's being a leader, and that's really what we thought. Possession receiver. His one catch, I know. Let me see here. I should be able to find what he did. Yeah, he had one catch this past week. Didn't go very long, but that's who he is, guys. He's going to be a guy that moves the chains here and there. Yeah, one catch, 3 yards. Well, you would like a little bit more more yardage than that. But that's going to be who he is, and he's going to have his time. I still think it's a long season. We still have 10 of these left. I still think there's going to be a time where we're in trouble. There's a key third down, and Julian Fleming's going to come down with the catch. I think it's a matter of time. But right now, he's doing really what he does best, and that's all the intangible stuff. It was a battle we lost, wanting to get a playmaker at receiver in the portal. Didn't happen. And the hope was that other guys would step up. Omari Evans looks like a playmaker. I know Harrison Wallace didn't do a whole lot this past week, but he looked like one against West Virginia. So that was the hope. And, granted, the opponents haven't been awesome that we've played so far, but the hope is that these guys that we have are going to be able to step up. Maybe even a Caden Saunders. I still think he's dealing. He is dealing with something right now. He played. He actually had a fumble on a punt return. I'm actually surprised he returned a punt. But
Did make a guy
the
miss for
hope
a
is
second.
he did. It looked exciting for half a second, but then it looked. It was really a tragedy. But yeah, it's the hope that everybody else could step up. And Julian Fleming, like I said, he's doing really what he does. And Tyler Warren's a beast too. That also helps.
Yeah, this is gonna come up all season, so I'm just prepared for it. Matty Ice on YouTube was on Twitter all day today defending the whole situation. I had to stop responding to some people on X about it because they're just like fire Hagens. I'm like, okay.
Why did and then you look at freaking Colorado. They have all those receivers out there.
Penn State tried to get Jimmy Horn Jr.
They tried to get the kid from he came from one of the Florida schools last year.
Yeah, Jimmy Horn Jr.
Yeah, Jimmy Horn Jr. And then there's another kid this past year. I forget which one. But I remember his name came up here too. Like they play for 4 wins. We could have really used one of those guys, but what are you going to do? Got to develop what we have.
That's right. All right, final question here from Will Gamble. Is it a red flag that Liam Clifford hasn't even received a target yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, to be completely honest. One of the things that we've discussed is your offense good enough? Is your offense with Liam Clifford starting good enough to win a Big Ten title and to try to compete for a national title? And so far, I'm just not seeing it from him. And I know Franklin raved about him in camp, but yeah, he's just not getting open. Like I'm not really sure what to make of Liam right now. But long season, maybe he'll step up here.
Yeah, and Will, I know you listen to the show. I mean, I said this from the season preview, maybe even before. Like, I didn't expect a large role for Clifford. I thought if you had a large role for Clifford, some bad things happened. So, I didn't have high expectations for Liam Clifford to be the Julian Edelman, Ladd McConkey of this offense. That wasn't my expectation.
But Danny Amendola.
Definitely not Danny Amendola. So definitely not Cooper Kupp. Definitely not. Maybe who was the guy for who's the first defensive coordinator for Penn State, James Franklin?
Bob Shoop.
Yeah. Didn't Shoop, didn't he have a son that played wide receiver for Penn State?
Tyler Shoop, yes he did.
We have like a mix, like Clifford somewhere in between Tyler Shoop and Julian Edelman. I'm not exactly sure where, but he's somewhere around there.
He is one of the receivers ever at Penn State.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thank you guys for the fan questions. Really helps with the engagement. Really enjoy speaking with you guys about your specific questions. So appreciate all of those as always. I just realized I got to fix your camera again here on this main screen.
I'm sorry. I'm kind of all over right now.
No, you're okay. It's pretty easy to center because it's just a video. So, all right. Well, for the sake of your technical difficulties, I think we're having a show on Wednesday, so we don't have to go crazy hard on this show. We'll come back Wednesday and regroup, so to speak. I wanted, though, well, first of all, I should just mention, get it out of the way, housekeeping wise. If you haven't liked the video yet, please make sure to like the video. And we did find out, Shawn, that Penn State will play Kent State at 3:30 on the BTN network in 2 weeks. So that's nice. But Shawn, I wanted to ask you this question. This is like one of the first times ever where we've gotten 2 or 3 weeks into the season and we don't know of a night game yet. I don't know if that's ever happened before in Penn State school history where you have no idea. We may not even have a night game. I mean, I really doubt that, but we don't know if we're going to have a night game on September 9th. I think that's kind of crazy. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I think you might have to go back to when we didn't have lights, and like the TV network would have to roll in portable lights to so they weren't playing in the dark. But yeah, it is weird. Just because we know so much early. I will say this though, like the 2 week window it seems to be getting more and more popular. I think because we have so many networks bidding on games now. So there's so much to, I don't know, probably a lot more that goes into it now. But yeah, it is a little odd. Do we have a confirmed time for Illinois yet? So nothing for Illinois.
No, not confirmed. There's a rumor that's going to be at night.
That'll be a night game. It will be because I have a wedding, and that's just the way those fall. It's always a night game whenever I have a wedding, it seems. But that's and I mean whatever. And Ohio State.
Are you trying not to throw shade at those people? Is that what you're trying to do?
At who?
At the wedding you have to go to?
a little bit, because it's like it's fall, guys. I don't mean to be the guy that complains about fall weddings, but I'm gonna be the guy that complains a little bit about fall weddings.
I have one of those, unfortunately, as well this year.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. You have 40 weeks to do it, but not the biggest deal in the world, I suppose. But then Ohio State's gonna almost certainly be a noon game. That also has not been announced. So just.
Yep. Shawn, I also.
Washington's 3:30, right?
Not officially.
Yeah, another unofficial. Now, I think the school knows, or they wouldn't have made it the whiteout game.
Yeah, for sure. Shawn, I also wanted to give you credit. Xander Sahadak, 2 field goals, not just in the game, but in the first half. You were coasting. You put your legs up on the desk. You already got the bold prediction right. You were all good.
I know. What if I got the bold prediction right? We lost.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as fun. For sure. Or if he kicked like 7 field goals and only made 2.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean that I guess you could, if you want to find a silver lining outside of Tyler Warren just being an animal. Payback looked good. Anytime you could split the uprights, they were big kicks at a critical time, and yeah, I think you have to be happy with that. Speaking of kicks. James Franklin did not have to attempt a 62-yarder to win the game, unlike Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois. So, if you want to feel better about Penn State playing a really crappy game, Notre Dame lost to their MAC opponent. So, little thing.
Yeah, and Auburn lost to Cal, and Oregon still looked pathetic this time against Boise State, although Oregon's starting to make me a lot of money by continuing not to cover.
Yeah, you got to ride that.
I am riding that. I'm on them again. They play Oregon State at Oregon State this week, and they're still 16.5-point favorites.
That seems high for a rivalry game.
It is. Yeah, I think so too. Which, by the way, you can find my bets over on Cory _Lestochi. I'm at 60% still through 3 weeks technically. So we're riding money. Pretty good. We're making money right now. Tim Ray says all fall weddings end in divorce, I'm assuming. Shawn, I also wanted to say, and we kind of buried this a little bit, but potentially huge news here and unfortunate news. Tight end Andrew Appleyea seen on crutches. Don't exactly know when that happened because he was okay, and then he wasn't okay. But no Rappleyea, assuming it's bumps and bruises extension version. It's going to be a while. Big loss for Penn State. Khalil Dinkins did come back, and in Khalil Dinkins fashion, had a big catch on a big third down, which goes back to, I'm pretty sure Khalil Dinkins is only allowed to get the ball on really important situations. So he did come back at least to, get the blood flowing a little bit. But Rappleyea, and I know they have Luke Reynolds, but Rappleyea, I mean, Franklin was going to expect them to have a big part of this offense. And it seems like he's going to be out for some extended time.
Yeah, crutches are never good. If you can't even walk under your own power, that means you're going to be out a while. I would be surprised and happy to have him back for USC. I mean, I'd be shocked. I hope he'll be back for Ohio State, but no matter what, we just hope he's doing well. Franklin did not have a press conference today, as he usually does, because there's a bye week. So I'm sure the topic of Andrew Rappleyea probably would have came up, and he would be able to tell us if he was shut down for the year or not. But right now, it seems pretty unknown. But just knowing sports, and we only have a 12-game season. Yeah, could be a while. I hope, like I said, against hope we have him back for Ohio State.
Yeah, because I think Reynolds is doing okay, but you can tell he's not as polished as Rappleyea.
Sure. Yeah, he still looks like he's learning out there, which he is. And this is a good time to learn. It'd be nice to see him, catch some balls against Kent State, maybe even get in the end zone.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Wanted to mention Monday Night Football is about to start. Jair Brown, Etor Gross-Matos, Kevin Givens, and Olu Fashanu are all in that game. So
yeah, a lot of Penn State guys.
A lot of Penn State guys there. Chris Godwin, now second all-time in Tampa Bay Buccaneers receiving touchdowns history, which I think is crazy that he's already that far along. I'm assuming Evans has the number one spot at this point. Because
I assume so, yeah.
Because I feel like they're probably and honestly, the Tampa Bay history is not great, but still good for them. Saquon Barkley had a massive day on Thursday or on Friday. He had 3 touchdowns for his Eagles debut. Micah Parsons, I saw registered a sack, and I saw Theo got his first catch as an NFL tight end for the Giants. Any other things that you want to mention as far as NFL guys or anything like that?
Yeah, not a lot to report with Chop Robinson. Didn't do a whole lot. He played, but he didn't do a whole lot in his first game. But he's still learning the ropes. Looks a lot bigger than he was at Penn State. And then, yeah, Saquon's still really good, guys. If you got him, and I know Fantasy League I'm in, I think he slipped all the way to the 3rd round.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so he's still really good. He was just surrounded by a bunch of nothing with the Giants, so it's good to see him excelling. I know we have a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of Eagles haters in the audience, understandably so. But yeah, he's still a very, very good player. And God, I thought he almost scored 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think he scored 4 touchdowns. I was trying to think back. I didn't look it up. I don't even think he scored 4 touchdowns at Penn State in a game.
I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, I tried to think back. Maybe that Nebraska game in 2017. Felt like he scored a lot, but
he had 3 against Michigan in 2017, I think, right?
I think so. Yeah, 4 is hard.
Yeah, I'd have to think about it quite a bit.
I think Indiana, he might have scored 3. He ran a kickback.
Oh yeah, that's a good guess.
And then he threw for a touchdown, and then I think he ran for 1.
He threw. That was to Deshaun Hamilton, I think.
Yeah. So I think he had 3 that day, but yeah, 4 is really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, I'm gonna cut this one done. We'll come back on Wednesday night for our 150th episode.
Oh.
I have a special guest. I think, Shawn, just so you know, B-Bell, I think, is going to come on next week. Still trying to figure out the guest for Wednesday's show. But I think we're going to have B-Bell on next week. But anyway, we'll be back Wednesday night to continue this conversation, do a little bit of film room. I'll probably do the late night film room on X tomorrow night, Hardcore PSUFB. We'll come back, do some film room, have a guest on the show, do our guest picks. The pick'em is up and open. We didn't talk about it too much in this episode. Shawn and I are like tied for fourth, I think, right now.
I didn't do as well last week.
One guy, Brandon something. 2 back-to-back solid weeks. Nobody's had a perfect week so far. I did check for that. Basically, if you nail the bonus points, huge. I mean, that saves 2 games that you may have guessed incorrectly. A lot of people, I mean, not very many people got the bonus picks right. A lot of people were on the Iowa cover, and that hurt a lot of people. It wasn't a good week for very many. I think the best score was Brandon again. I think I want to say he got 15 was the best out of 17 points possible. And then some other people got more right, but then they got their bonus pick wrong. So they still, best case they can do is 15 at that point. So anyway, thank you guys for doing that. We're over 50 people contesting now, so make sure you fill yours out. If you miss a week or two, you might be hosed. Anyway, that is now live on X. You can find the link. If you're on YouTube, you can find it in the description as well. That's all I got.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, for Shawn Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Appreciate you guys dealing with some technical difficulties, and we will see you back on